typically at Next Wave Athletics, we do a coaches show once a week. With coaches getting ready for the playoffs and playoffs coming up, I decided to do something a little different tonight. Coach Mahoney has coached at Tennessee, so he's been at a Power 5 program, coached at Cincinnati, a Group of 5 program, and also at Concord, which is a Division II program. So I thought it'd be great to talk to him about recruiting. To be honest with you, I've been in this for a couple of months now, and I can't say I'm shocked, but I am surprised about the general lack of knowledge that's involved in this process. So I'm very excited to have him on. This segment's brought to you by Jay Crook, is a surgeon here in town who sponsors our show and sponsors a young man to hopefully help go on to play up the next level. So we appreciate Dr. Crook and everything he does, and want to thank Don Mahoney for coming out and seeing us tonight. Appreciate it.
Great to be with you. Great to be with you.
Yeah, no, like I said, you've kind of been at all the levels, so I know you'll have a lot of information to give us. The first thing I want to ask you, and we'll talk Power 5 first, which Power 5 is basically your ACC, your SEC, your Pac-10, your Big 12, all those kind of upper echelon. So recruiting at that level. So just during the week, how much huddle film will you watch of a potential recruit?
Coming off the field, if it's obviously during the season, you're given from the recruiting staff that you have anywhere from 15 to 20 players that they've identified as targets for you to really look at, see the things that you're looking for at the position in which you obviously coach, but the characteristics of what you're looking for. So they do not waste too much time with giving guys that do not fit that profile, being the level of what's expected. So it starts to shrink that pool of players quite a bit, but on the range of 15 to 20.
And so that's daily or a week?
It depends. Again, day to day, I would say, in fairness, probably 8 to 10.
Right. And so when you say fits that profile, every coach is different. And again, we're talking Power 5. We'll kind of talk that and then work our way. Height, weight, speed, they kind of have to fit in that envelope. Am I wrong on that?
No, absolutely. For instance, my background being the offensive line, coaching that position, obviously your tackles being long, 6'6" and above, to be able to protect the edge for what each offense does at each given school. Centers and guards in that profile of 6'5", 6'4", 6'3", but not completely eliminating your 6'2" guys that you say, well, what falls into that? Well, can they play center and guard as well as the profile of their toughness, their smarts, and all those things?
Exactly. And I do you hear it all the time. What about this guy? What about that guy? What about that guy? And people got to realize in your business, those are the exceptions. The Aaron Donalds at 5'11", the defensive back, the defensive lineman at the Rams. Those are the exceptions. Most coaches are going to be like, if you don't fit into this profile, we're really not going to look at you. And is it fair? It's just the way it is.
It is.
And so when camps, that's a big thing now. These summer camps. You hear some, I hear parents tell me and players tell me, well, I went to this camp and felt like it was kind of a waste of money. Or are those things you really look at players and find players?
Here's the best advice. I got this in high school because I came from a family in which financially we could only afford a camp, 2 max. And my high school coach, who at the time in his career coached at the University of Pittsburgh under Jackie Sherrill, he said, if you were to take an official visit, 3, 5, whatever it is, that's the camps you need to choose. Who are the schools you are the most excited about, and go and camp at those to really expose yourself. Now, by the same token, I always would tell high school recruits when I met with them, I would say, hey, what are you doing this summer? I'm going to Nebraska's camp. Is Nebraska recruiting you? I got a camp brochure. So you're going to go all the way to Nebraska for a camp in which They haven't contacted you. They haven't physically been in the school. So the best advice I can give is be wise on camps that you choose as a particular student athlete that is the best for your financial situation, the best for your exposure, and without a doubt, the interest being shown there, go to those camps. And that's what we did with our son, that we knew not only that school was there, but other schools of different levels are there.
Right, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is the advice I'm giving. There's a lot of camps now that are these mega, come to our camp, spend $200 at this park down the street, and guys are doing it. What I'm encouraging guys is go to college campuses where it's going to be the guy that coaches your position is going to look at you. And I'm assuming I'm correct in that.
Absolutely. You're getting the coach that's, the position coach to be around that coach coaching you. As Coach Matthews mentioned, the campus itself, that there's that part of it too that's extremely important. So you're getting all of it as opposed to just going to some random place where it's supposed to be an exposure camp. I think that there's too much invested for you and your families that a particular school site is much more beneficial to you.
Exactly, and one of the kind of the thing, Twitter and the social media world, what guys like to put out, after a great camp at the University of Maryland, I got an offer. I think I'm right on this again. They've already seen countless film on this kid. They've already recruited him, they like him, but they bring him on to camp, just want to see him in person, shake his hand, look him in the eyes, and then after it's over, hey, you got an offer. Yeah. Am I right on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's some guys that the film checks the boxes. It may be just as simple as the head coach, and every coach is different at every program, that wants to have them there physically in person to confirm all the boxes being checked. There's some that have different philosophies with that. I think that's a course that some coaches will take just to confirm that they are spot on with the decision they've made about how good they feel about somebody.
And on the players, I think it means more for you personally. You have an offer instead of a phone call, instead of and so I think parents and players sometimes are, I went and had a great camp, maybe I'll get an offer. That's most likely not going to happen unless, unless very rare instances.
Yeah, I always would say to concern yourself with, if you come to our camp, you're gonna get offered a scholarship. Well, you go to the camp and unfortunately you may have a bad day. And there's a young man and his family getting in a car and driving back to wherever it was that all those dreams were crushed on a promise or some type of a deal was being made that never happened. I think you always got to be aware of that I just said, come to the camps, see us, see our staff, see our head coach, the campus, and let's spend the day together and learn as much as you can. And then from there is where you would go with, as a staff, potentially doing that offer.
Another thing that I hear a lot, and maybe you can help clear up. Hey, coach, I went to Camp X, University of Tennessee. I think I was the best player there. I was the best center there, let's say. And I kind of want to say, well, they're doing 12 of these camps a summer, and just so you're the best camp out of that day. Can you touch on that?
Perfect. I mean, absolutely. Here's what would happen is we would have a camp, even if it was at Central Michigan where I spent time there, and it'd be a 4-day camp, and we left the camp and visiting coaches there, and they'd say, so-and-so, man, he was the stud of the bunch. Sure he was. There was 7 linemen that day.
Right.
So, and you do emotionally get excited as a coach, but you got to pull yourself back and review the number of guys that were at the camp, where it falls with all your pool of players you're looking at. The coach is exactly right. I mean, it's good that you left and had a great camp, but there may only have been 4 guys there.
Right. Now, let's talk Power 5. You'll see, and this has definitely changed since when I was in high school. Cade Mays was offered as a freshman. Brian Tucker offered as a freshman. Guys that I coached at Catholic. It happens early in the Power Fives. What's the thinking behind that?
You really want to make sure that, for one, and it happened in our time, through recruiting Catholic and knowing Coach Matthews and knowing the program, that I think those decisions made as staffs are ones that really, it's close to home, or it's a staff that you maybe as that coach have had that geographical area, and you know that coach, you know the background of, hey, you've really watched this young man really start to grow, and you say, you know what, I know what this future holds for this young man in making that decision. Because it is, some people say, well, that's crazy, he's only in, well, no, coaches doing their homework and really following it is worth doing that, and it's making sure that young man knows they are for real about me liking me on these reasons.
Now, on the flip side of that, you offer, and I got to tell this to guys, you're offered as a sophomore from Tennessee. Well, they've also offered, 400 other guys? So they've offered 400 guys. They can only sign 25 a year. And I know you can't recruit 400 guys. How do you break that down to, hey, we're going to recruit 100 and sign 25? Can you walk me through that process?
Yeah, you really target and look at truly what you would deem as gettable. Now, obviously, in places like Tennessee, you feel like they're all gettable by obviously everything that the program has to offer, but what are obstacles that you're maybe battling? Is it distance, maybe with some guys that you know in your mind, here's the ranking that's realistic in terms of, say, the number that Coach Matthews said, to where here's the realistic gettable guys, here's the other pool of guys, and maybe it's an academic, as you dig deep, that a young man wants engineering and this school's excellent in engineering, that's probably the route he's going, or his father was an All-American at Notre Dame, was the case for a young man out of Nashville we were recruiting, that you kind of know where you are at in the process of that particular person.
So you'll cut down that list as you go. And I've had guys say, Coach, I had a young man just up to it. Syracuse offered me as a sophomore, and I have not heard one word from him since. So who knows?
And that's what I, during the time coaching, did not like. I want, anytime an offer is made, it means something.
Yeah.
And I would always stress that to the athletes, that when you're offered, because I had it the other way too, Coach, that, well, you have an offer. Well, you know what? We're not just throwing an offer out just for the sake of throwing it out. I want an offer made that means something. That I would always say this too. Any offer made, if that young man said yes, as soon as that offer was made, were you ecstatic and excited about it? And if you can answer that as a coach, that's the offer you made.
Because now there's offers, non-committable offers, we're going to offer you.
I never understood that and never will. I know Coach Matthews, through the years of all the players and athletes and the young men that went on and have gone on to, big time programs, I'll never understand that. I mean, when an offer's made, he commits, it's done.
Yeah. And every coach is different. Every program is different, right, wrong, or indifferent. I know, for example, Dabo Sweeney, he came in my office and said, we don't offer a guy until after his junior year. And Cade Mays and some of these, hey, Coach, no, we're not going to offer you until I want to know you can pass sophomore English. So some guys wait, some guys are, Lane Kiffin's offering at 7th graders.
Yeah.
So everybody's different. But I think that's important to understand, and please understand, these schools are offering 400 or more players. And so when you look at the numbers, now let's talk again, Power 5, and another kind of thing I hear, I'm the best player in Knoxville. How come, we'll use Tennessee, how come Tennessee isn't recruiting? Can you explain the geographic
Yeah.
footprint of the recruiting process?
Well, I think without a doubt, when you, especially schools of whatever area they're in, offer a young man in their backyard, that it's got to be one in which, again, that the offer's made, he commits, everyone feels good about it. If you make the offer, wants to commit, and you as a school back out, that looks really bad for the area, for the name, the whole bit. So, I think sometimes when people may get upset because, well, he's in the backyard, they have an offer, they're just doing due diligence, they're handling things the right way, professionally, with coaches in high schools, which I always think, even if it is your backyard or anywhere, it's dealing with people and it's handling things the right way. So that's why there may not be some guys that get offered, which I would always say it's easy for schools to come in here from far away and say, I made an offer, and as Coach Matthews said, they leave, and the young man comes in and says, I haven't heard from so-and-so in 4 months.
Yeah.
But everybody reads on paper, he's been offered by Michigan.
Right.
I haven't heard from Coach Harbaugh,
Yeah.
So
what does it really mean?
Yeah, so that's where, it's misleading and how it's understood.
Here's an example that I would tell the guys. I can tell you won the lottery. And you can print it out on Twitter and Instagram, I won the lottery today. You're not going to get any money. So you get that one day. Like, hey. But the reality is, it doesn't mean a whole lot. And another point I was kind of trying to make was talk about, say Tennessee, whatever.
Right.
How many kids do you get out of Florida, North Carolina, Georgia? So just because you're the best player in Knoxville, the competition.
Yeah. And again, it becomes to where, as we're seeing every Saturday, the number of players that are so fantastic across the country, everybody's going after them. So again, it gets back to that board where you're really ranking guys to say, we've evaluated, we've looked at them, we have a ranking in which we're really, as they all are, shooting for the best. It's like the draft day. Here's my number 1 pick. Here's my 2nd round pick. That's where you're trying to make those moves to put together the best recruiting class you can, and that's how it happens. And unfortunately, some feelings are hurt, but it's the reality of it. I think the biggest thing that needs to be important is, as Coach Matthews mentioned, say a young man, you get offered, and another school, my point is, if they give you a timeline to say, you have this offer, another young man's pretty close to making a decision, have you decided? Because you're both really close, so there's where all the decisions and so forth come in as well.
Exactly, and there is more power, to the player there's ever been as far as transferring and non-committing and breaking their commitment and things like that. So when you watch film, and this is a great recruiting story that I heard, that Nick Saban was at Michigan State and he was going to go on a date. He was an assistant coach. He was going to go on a date, and the coach told him, no, I want you to go recruit this kid. And so he told the date, listen, I'm just going to go watch, and then we can go to the movies or do whatever. And so she sat down, and she knew nothing about football. She said, well, which one are we recruiting? He said, well, I'll give you 10 minutes. And if you can't tell me which one we're recruiting, we're going to take off. They sat there for 10 minutes. She couldn't tell this player is absolutely dominating. So they left and went back and told the head coach, he can't play. Just because the girl he was with couldn't pick him out. So I tell people that you will fly off the screen if you're a Power 5 player.
Yeah, and I, doing high school games on Fridays, hear about certain players at different schools looking forward to go watch them play. And I do some research before, leading up to Friday, with what I can watch and so forth. But I like to go and just see the young men and see if they really jump off the field at you to go, wow, they have this, this, and this. As well as, and we may get into it, but other things besides their play, how they are with their teammates, how they carry themselves, body language, all the things that you look for that I declare as substance that I think is important as can be with recruiting at any time, whenever I was coaching, I wanted to see what kind of substance they had, not just what kind of player they were.
Yeah, and that's important. And again, every coach is different on that. You know, if you're 6'2" and run a 4.3, sometimes it doesn't matter. And let's be honest.
Yeah.
And every coach is different. Typically, though, the good coaches are going to recruit good people,
Yeah.
and that's you see the same teams win year.
If I can share this, the best story, our oldest son that played for Coach Matthews, Amari Rogers, he was at what they call the Open out in
Yes.
Oregon.
Yeah.
I'll never forget this, that he flew back from that, how many days it was out there. They had a 7-on-7 at Powell that I went to watch. He was at the 7-on-7, which by a lot of kids
Yep.
that participate in that, it's usually about me and it's about this and all that. He came back and was with his team for 7-on-7 off of that long flight, all those things that I said, again, that gets back to the substance piece that you go, besides being so talented as Amari was, and all that, there's the substance you look for. You say, this is something special.
Yeah, there's a reason that he's playing in the playoffs and got the championship ring and all that, because not only a good player, but that character that came along with that. Now, you're a 22. You're a 22 recruit. It's your senior year. 5 games in.
Okay.
You haven't really got, maybe you've got some interest, but really no off. What are the chances, and I don't want people to give up, but what are the chances realistically of that young man getting a Power 5 offer when he hasn't received one until his, and just be honest.
Not very good. Not in this day and age. Now, I say that with everything that's going on with the pandemic and all that.
Right.
But in this day and age, with all the social media, with all the ability for coaches to get film, if that had not happened by now, my advice would be to start gearing towards other possibilities, being other levels, and realizing that, again, that maybe what was ultimately a goal and a dream for you, not that the dream's been crushed, but the goal maybe of that level's not there, that there's other good football out there, it's just not that level.
And let's talk a second about that. I feel like I've kind of been the negative Nancy here, but I just want people to understand the process. So now, just like so many high school players, I want to go play college. I want to go play college. I want to play, I want to play college ball. That's a problem. When they get to the college level, I want to go play pro. I want to go play in the NFL. Now, and I think this is valid, let's talk about all the misses. When I was playing 25 years ago in the NFL, 1 out of every 5 guys on the team, 53 guys on the roster, was some from school I never heard of.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I'm going to see if it's still the case. I looked at rosters. It's the exact same way now.
Yeah.
The Minnesota Vikings, this one I look at, because there's 11 guys out of 53. Minnesota, Mankato, Sanford. Here's right now in the NFL, or last weekend, 2 starting quarterbacks from North Dakota State.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I like to be an amateur scout. To me, the 2 best quarterbacks coming out, I know Corral's a good player, we always saw him, are the kid from Liberty and the kid from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Those are going to be top 10 to 15 picks in the NFL. How the misses?
Obviously, if a young man's getting recruited by one school, a lot of schools flock to that certain player and so forth, and a lot of people put a lot of attention to that, and they're missing some of the other players that, again, I see on a regular basis every Friday that I get excited about in this area, that there's some really good players out there, that it's a lack of some homework done, I think,
Exactly.
by coaches really digging deep into the weeds to say, here's a guy that can fit our profile of what we're looking for. Everybody's shooting for those so-called 5 stars, which Coach Matthews had a great point, and a lot of those aren't. And my son and I will sit there sometimes on the Sundays, we'll go, whatever happened to so-and-so, he's not playing anymore. Whatever happened to so-and-so, he's not playing anymore. So there's a lot of guys that tend to get overrated at times, but I know I was excited talking to Coach Matthews about this because there are so many good schools out there that it doesn't have to be a Tennessee, it doesn't have to be a Auburn and UCLA and all that. There's a lot of good schools out there that produce tremendous players that go on that just have an edge about them.
Yeah, no, and again, I always encourage, look at the NFL rosters, and I would say encourage our guys at Catholic, trying so hard to want to get to that next level. When you get there, you're going to find, you know, they want to win the games and all that, but they want to, you know, a lot of these guys want to go on and play. So let's talk a little bit about Group of Five, Cincinnati, Central Michigan, you know, that level. So I'm assuming you're not offering freshmen and sophomores at that level.
Very rarely.
Right.
We again, here's at that level, and not to jump ahead of Coach, but again, it's about your time spent in a right place in recruiting at that level. The guys that you know, Clemson's and so forth are offering at that age, that's probably more of the direction they're heading. So you can track them, but don't spend a lot of time on that. Focus in on some guys that you may have seen in camp that you think at a young age, hey, here's a guy that we can potentially recruit that's going to fit our level.
Right, and I'm going to assume in a place like that where your Alabama can go to get a quarterback in California. Cincinnati, probably not. You're probably more Ohio. You know, you have your area.
And it's a great point because some of those places, just financially speaking, like Central Michigan, they're not going to get in planes and fly out to California and get quarterbacks out there. It's more of, you know, what the budget allows to get to those areas and places. And that's, you know, it's funny you mentioned those. Those were guys that I coached probably more that are in the NFL than my time spent here with just Jason Kelsey of Cincinnati, who was a walk-on. Another great example was a 6'2", not really fit the profile, but was high intellect, football intelligence, athletic, all that. But yeah, it's a lot more geographic.